On this episode of Travels with Bill, we're just outside of Kamsack, Saskatchewan, and we're on the trail of what could be a very naughty train. Something caught my attention on Facebook this morning. People discussing that a grass fire last night, right by the elevator, may have been caused by the engineer of a train throwing a cigarette butt out the window and catching some tinder-dry grass on fire. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be an engineer that did it. Here's a shot of a train from someone else's video that had a brake fail. It was stuck on, of course it got very warm and made a bunch of sparks. When a train starts a fire, this is usually what causes it, not the engineer carelessly smoking. But the question remains, is this fire due to train, or is it because of something else? This certainly wouldn't be the first fire a train has caused. In May of 2018 in Winnipeg, along the CN main line, a series of fires caused as a train went by. CN said they didn't know anything that caused the fires, but security video showed the train come and as it went by, starting a fire. And it started several of them. Winnipeg Fire Department had to respond to fires all along that rail line, all within a few minutes of each other as the train went by. Well, certainly as we fly into Kamsack here, you can kind of see where the fire started, right? We're getting closer and closer to the railway track, so it could well be that this particular fire was caused by train. After all, you can't blame a train if the fire starts someplace other than where a train could be. And when you see it come from a railway track like this, well, that's very suspicious, considering what we saw in Winnipeg and what we've seen in so many other places where there's dry conditions and a train goes by, and then it's time to call the fire department. Well, let's take a bit of a closer look here. We're at the Rail Garden in Kamsack. Now, it's early in the year, so we don't have any flowers to show you, at least not yet. We have a different video, though, of that garden from later on. This is the railway track, and there is the beginning of the fire. So let's walk over there and take a look, because it certainly looks like this came from the track, doesn't it? Something suspicious, though. Actually, a couple things. See how the grass right along the track isn't burned? The fire started a foot or two away from this. That's interesting, because you would think if it was sparks like we saw in that previous video, this grass here would have been burned too. And it's kind of tough to see exactly where this started off here. It looks like probably in the middle, but because the fire is burned a little bit, oh, see, there it's really close to the railway tracks. But check out the rust. We should talk about that too. See, we are right beside the tracks, but this is not actually the line the train travels on. We'll jump back a year here to prove that. This is the same area a year previous in the summertime when it's all green. There's the railway track, there's the elevator that was in that first shot we saw of the fire at night, and I'm here to tell you that middle track, that's the one where the trains actually travel on. The one right beside the fire, not it at all. And yes, it is pretty cool to always have some archive footage to go to see what was there before something bad happened. So what ultimately caused this fire? Well, we'd love to blame the train, but a few facts. There was no train as it went by. I spoke to a guy who actually watched the fire. He'd been working outside of the area, and he said, well, yeah, there was a fire at the railway tracks, but he said there was no train, not for a couple hours at least, before such time as the fire broke out. He did see what there was, though. 3 people walking down the railway track smoking. So I guess it's half true. It was a cigarette butt from the railway track, but certainly not from a train engineer. It was a cigarette butt from someone careless who shouldn't have thrown one in the grass and caused this big fire. Well, thankfully it hit the river, and that was the end of it. Crews able to get it out before it destroyed too much property.